Hello, this is DC Hammer, and this is the DC Hammer Show. So today we start out with another piece on China, and I've been reporting over the past several months about the extremely poor environmental posture of the Red Dragon, Red China, and the fact that they are the second largest polluter in the world, just behind India, but just narrowly behind India. And as a matter of fact, China is not only polluting its own waters, lands, and air at a dramatic rate, they are also now polluting other nations where they go to do some of their little improvements, such as in Cambodia. They have a Chinese casino there, and Cambodia, the country of Cambodia, has ordered it to be closed because it is ruining the beauty of the local beach and pouring raw sewage into the sea. And so the Jinding Hotel and Casino, which was registered to do business just, we're talking less than a year ago, in April 2018, and only recently opened, has already become a major concern of pollution in that area. And as AOC and the other American proponents of the Soylent Green New Deal apparently are oblivious to what's going on in other parts of the world, comparing the United States and its pristine environments created by a combination of corporations who are green oriented and regulations that have been put into place and monitoring that goes on in this country, and compare that with what's going on around the world. And the Red Dragon, as it runs wild with its one belt, one road policy, is now threatening the environments of the places where they are actually building structures and doing business. So Cambodia is a country with laws and a criminal code, and maybe we in the United States will have one again in a few weeks. Let's pray. Equal justice under the law would be a nice thing to return to this country. But apparently in Cambodia they live by it, and so the authorities are going to hand down serious punishment for the owners of that club. And that will be a warning to other business owners who break Cambodian law. So this is going to be a big setback to the Red Dragon, because they're used to running all over the planet and violating the laws of all of the different countries in which they then sink their claws and their fangs. And thanks to captured elites, as they called it, like Dinosaur Dianne Feinstein and others, they circumvent all the laws in the countries that they are going to, and typically then steal as much as they can from that country, whether it's intellectual property, military secrets, or cash through imbalanced trade negotiations. As President Trump and his negotiating team, Robert Lighthizer and Peter Navarro, are straightening that out, it is refreshing to know that other parts of the world do have government officials that actually care about the environment, not like people like AOC and others in this country that only care about screaming about the environment. So Pamela Geller in the Geller Report brings us another report that indicates that the U.S. calls Golan, and that be the Golan Heights, Israeli-controlled, and has now dropped all mention of West Bank occupation. So under the previous administration, under Barack Hussein Obama, they continued to describe the Golan Heights, that part of Israel that is actually part of Israel, but that the quote-unquote Palestinians, in other words the Arabs, who have been kicked out of places like Pakistan and Jordan and are looking for a new place to hang their hijabs, was continually referring to that area in Israel, the rightful property of the country of Israel, as the occupied territory, as if it truly belonged to someone other than the Israelis. But President Trump and his team, after he recognized Jerusalem as the capital, is now removing the word occupied land from the references to this area, and he is now calling it actually Israeli-controlled property. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is clear in his designation of that in announcements that he is making to the press. And so this is one more move to ensure that the Israelis are able to protect themselves from the onslaught from the Muslim extremists that have tried for decades, since the day that Israel was declared an independent nation, to remove them from the map. And so once again, Israel, the only democracy in that area of the world and one of our strongest allies, is now being recognized by the United States to truly be in possession and own the property on which it stands. How novel. The Daily Signal has a piece, and this is interesting. You have to end them as in quotes. El Salvador president-elect has outlined his 3 steps to destroy MS-13 and other gangs. So, MS-13 is one of the most violent gangs. They love to cut people into pieces and leave their parts strewn around the countryside, and have been a thorn in the side of the United States, have been terrorizing areas of the United States, including Long Island, New York. But now the Salvadorans have elected Nayib Bukele, and so President-elect Bukele is announcing to his countrymen that he is not going to put up with rampant violence, and he is a third-party outsider, very much in the same ilk as President Trump, in essence, won the election in a landslide, and he's promising to crack down on corruption. He's going to fight crime and improve the economy. And this speech that he made is proof positive. He says what he means, and he's going to do what he says. And to the people that are losing heart in what President Trump is doing regarding advancing his promises and fulfilling his promises when he is continuing to be under false attack from the left, and as they are continuing to try to bring him down with false allegations and fake news, people should keep in mind that not only has President Trump fulfilled dozens and dozens of campaign promises in his first 2 years and has succeeded in a way that no president has in their first 2 years, he has also made dramatic inroads into balancing the courts. And in addition to confirming 2 constitutionalists to the Supreme Court of the United States, he's also been vetting and putting through the Senate and getting these judges put into place for lower level courts, from appeals courts to district courts to circuit courts. And so now President Trump has flipped the federal appeals court to a Republican majority after being able to confirm his most recent appointment, Paul Mady. And so now, for the first time in a long time, the quote-unquote a Republican, or you could say just Republican appointees, now has a 7-6 majority in the Third Circuit Court. And Mady is the 35th appeals court nominee who's been confirmed under Trump. Again, this is historic. This has never happened, that number of nominees that have been confirmed and put on the court by one president in a short period of time in the first half of their first administration. And so once again, take heart, all those wobbly need people out there on the right who for some reason believe and are at times drinking the left-wing Kool-Aid that President Trump is not fulfilling what he has promised to do, and he will continue to add additional people to the bench at a variety of levels, even with the obstruction of the Democrats. And even though there are still a number of vacancies that still need to be filled, he is calmly and steadily moving ahead. There are 131 positions that are still vacant in the District Court and Court of Appeals, but he's on track to fill a great number of those within the next several months. And finally, this comes to us from Breitbart. In 2020, Beto O'Rourke has officially announced that he's going to run for the White House. And that is great news, because now apparently the Democrats are completely throwing in the towel, because they are going to run against a winner. They're going to run a loser. So Beto O'Rourke, who failed to become senator of Texas and lost to Ted Cruz, is now going to make it 0-2 if he attempts to become the president of the United States by campaigning, securing the Democrat nomination, and running against President Trump. So this is going to be one heck of a presidential race, the way it's shaping up, and the Democrats continue. If the field that they are pulling together turns out to be the ones that actually debate each other, go through the primary process together, and then you end up at a nomination convention, it appears that no one that they've put forward so far has a chance to do anything but lose in that first Tuesday in November of 2020. And as political consultant Dick Morris believes, that the victory by President Trump, all things being equal, what we can see on the ground right now, will be a bigger landslide victory for him in 2020, for President Trump in 2020, than it was for President Nixon in 1972 for re-election, or President Reagan in 1984. Those are two of the biggest landslide victories in modern political history. Appears that they will be eclipsed by what's going to happen in 2020. So I say full speed ahead, Beto. Continue to pull money out of the coffers of donors on the Democrat side of the slate, and looking forward to hearing you on the podium debating others in your party, and that would be one heck of a debate to see you going up against President Trump. I just, pray it would be so. The chances are, again, according to Dick Morris, that the highest probability is that it'll be Bernie Sanders swooping in again. And he also believes that Cam the Ham Harris has a good shot at it. But considering that Kamala Harris, the only reason she's in politics is because her having slept her way into positions of authority through Willie Brown, who was the leader of the state assembly, and they were sleeping together, then he made sure that she was appointed into a couple political roles that then launched her career. So I would look forward to her stating her feminist position about how the way to get to the top if you're a female is to sleep around. Thank you for watching, and God bless. And now the DC Hammer Show is available as an audio podcast. Just go to Podcast Garden or iTunes and search for DC Hammer or News Narrative Analysis Associates, NNAA.